In an unexpected move, the first-team offense goes on the field for the Green Bay Packers, but the big game is against Denver this weekend. We are here live from Podcast Movement 2017 on your Packers Fan Podcast.
Hey Packers fans, this is your unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, and these are the podcasters you're looking for. One of these guys actually kissed the magical 13.5-yard line, and the other guy will challenge you to a game of pinball anytime. And now, it's time to Go Pack Go with your hosts, Wayne Henderson and Troy Heinrichs.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of your Packers Fan Podcast. It's the show by fans and for fans of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. We got a feedback hotline. The regular season's coming, so give us a call at 920-3PACK-GO or simply visit PackersFanPodcast.com/feedback. Be part of the show. This is episode 134 of your Packers Fan Podcast, recorded live at Podcast Movement 2017. It's August 24th. 2017 in beautiful Anaheim, California. The show notes will be at PackersFanPodcast.com/134.
On this slightly shorter than normal episode, we're going to discuss the big highs and fun there going up against our nemesis, the Redskins. And, of course, we'll take a look ahead at the Broncos this coming weekend. Yes.
Yeah, preseason is almost done, thank goodness. But we have a few more practice games to go. We're also going to preview this week's matchup against the Broncos. Troy will have the keys to the Packers winning the game against the Broncos.
As we always do.
As we always do, because, that's what we do. And we also want to send out some quick thanks to TalkShoe for sponsoring this live recording of our podcast. It's a unique website for people to participate in live interactive podcasts called Community Calls at TalkShoe.com.
We also want to thank Shure for providing the microphones for our live podcast recording here at Podcast Movement. You can check them out at Shure.com. That's SHURE.com.
And me, I'm at Wayne Henderson, your voice acting, podcasting, Green Bay Packers fan.
And I'm at Troy Heinrichs, now an award-winning podcaster as of last night. Here at Podcast Movement, it was amazing.
Hasn't even been 12 hours yet. Congratulations again to you and Packers fan Aaron for winning for the Blacklist Exposed.
Yes, but we still have one more award show to do in September where you all have nominated us to be in the sports category, so I want to say shout out, thanks again. But let's go ahead and get right into it since we are abbreviated today. Wayne, what did you think of our awesome victory over the Redskins?
I was much more impressed than I was with the first preseason game. Always Game 2 and Game 3 are the preseason games to pay attention to. You get to see the starters. I know Aaron Rodgers probably thought he was only going to play 4 or 5, maybe 6 plays, but because of his clever shenanigans on the field and overturned calls, he was out there a good long time, and that was great to see because he's in form.
Well, the one play that I love is seeing, of course, is the offsides call where he was able to, once again, in preseason even, get another one of those, I have 12 men on the field. What are you going to do about that? And sure enough, it didn't pay off quite this time, but at least we got the call, which is fantastic.
Not to mention the fact that when the preseason referee made the call against the wrong side, Aaron Rodgers goes and helps him out and says, we don't have a number 58 on the offense. That calls against the defense.
That's so true. That is so true. But I think the biggest thing that was a surprise was that we saw the majority of the first-team offense out there. And I got to tell you, that first drive, that long, sustained drive, that's the kind of stuff we want to see this season, Wayne.
I think we are going to see it quite a bit. And, of course, Saturday night when we play the Broncos, we'll see if we see a lot more of them. But the touchdown to Martellus Bennett.
Oh, my gosh. I've been waiting for that since the Bubba Franks, Mark Chmura days. I think this is going to be – it was great, too, because he wasn't playing in the tight end slot. I think the matchups that McCarthy's going to be able to do by moving him around, lining up on the outside, the height advantage was redonkulous.
That alone. Plus, I heard that Martellus Bennett told Aaron Rodgers, have faith in me, just throw it up. I will jump up and get it.
A jump he did, because that was one jump ball. I don't even think he knew if he was an ant or a actual football player at that point, because Marty went up so high up in the air. Are we calling him Marty now, just to make it easier? Marty-saurus Rex on Twitter?
Marty McFly, why not? Hey, if he keeps catching touchdowns, you can call him whatever you want, Troy.
That's exactly right. You can call him awesome. Interesting from this game, though, we had Brent Hundley come back in. He had a fairly decent game, but still doesn't seem like he's quite that same swagger magic he had the last 2 preseasons at this point. Joe comes in, obviously, mops up a little bit in the third quarter, and then we see our first look at Taysom Hill this season, and all of a sudden people are like, Taysom's awesome. Let's have Taysom be the backup. And we just want to say Taysom was good, but remember it was quarter 4, preseason game, third, 4-string players. Let's put the brakes on and we'll just see how things go.
Well, true, but you've got to be excited for this young kid. He did great things. In fact, it motivated me to put out the Monday weekly Twitter poll, even though it's preseason. We're getting those underway, and I asked Packers fans, which backup quarterback do you hope that we keep on the roster? And obviously, or hopefully, we're going to keep at least 2. But 53% of the people voted for Brett Hundley, which makes sense because he is the de facto backup. 17% said Joe Callahan. I think that was a fairly low amount of votes only because of how he performed in the preseason game. And 30% said Taysom Hill. Make sure that he stays on the team. And Cheesehead Lifer on Twitter added, it seemed Joe was dead on last year. This year, not as much, but I'll stick with him. He looks promising, though, and I really liked all 3 of the backups, truly. And Connie Loves the Pack says, agreed. But Hill has one good game, and everyone wants him to be our backup.
Well, I think that's how we all felt about Brett Hundley when he first came out of the gun 2 years ago as well.
That's true. Very similar.
The big question is of that 17% for Joe Callahan, how would that 17% have split had Joe not been in there? Would they have gone to the Taysom Hill side, or would they have gone to the Brett Hundley side? Because if you look at, if they went Taysom Hill, that's 47-53. That's a lot closer than you ever would have thought Brett Hundley would have had for competition.
Oh, absolutely. And it would be nice if we could keep all of them. Those darn rules about cutting down to 53 players really lowers the chances for one of these guys. But really, I know that it's only one game. I do hope we see a lot more of Taysom Hill this week and next week because who knows? Maybe he will be the next great Packers quarterback.
He did have a 20-yard touchdown run. You can't complain about that.
That was amazing, and he was fired up.
And excited. He's like, this is the best thing ever. I love playing football.
And well, who wouldn't? And we had a lot of listeners and other Packers fans that made it to the game in Washington, and there was green and gold everywhere, and I cannot count how many times I heard chants of "Go Pack Go" throughout that game. To be the home team and hear that, even in preseason's got to be like, man, I wish we had cool fans like the Packers fans do.
That's right, absolutely. And we actually had people send us pictures from the game on the Twitter account. So I thought that was fantastic to actually get video of a road game from some of you, the listeners. So if you're out there this season going to any of the road games, definitely send us your pics, send us your video. We want to make sure we feature you, of course, on Twitter, the Instagram account, and on the Facebook page. That's PackersFanPodcast.com/Facebook. But some of the lower points from this game, the thing with Hundley is that he was sacked far too many times, and I wonder if that's a bad omen for our offensive line. Now, we have a fantastic first-string offensive line, but do we have the depth?
That's a great question. On the plus side, odds are we don't have to take out the entire first-string O-line and put in all the second-stringers. I don't know what happened. Yeah, Brett Hundley, he was blindsided a few times. That was not good to see. And, number 36 got injured. And even Joe Callahan, even one of the reasons he may not have done all that well is he got roughed up quite a few times.
They did. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes because, we want to make sure we protect AR-12 this year because that first team offense, smelled a little bit like 2011, Wayne.
That was so nice. Jordy looked good. He didn't even play quite as much as Aaron, but it's just good to see. And, a few more weeks, September 10th will be here. The Seahawks will be coming to Lambeau Field, and it's going to be amazing.
So I think the thing that we have to watch out for, though, is that when you have that awesome first-team offense is, again, scoring too quickly. And I think the defense on the first team as well this game really did step up once again. So I'm really excited to see how the defense plays because I don't know if you saw Rodgers. We talked about this a lot last year about how Rodgers was holding onto the ball way too long. The counts in his progression 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 seconds sometimes. Did you notice how in that precision first drive, it was literally the quick passes, 1-2 step drop, balls out, 1-2 step drop, balls out, let the receivers run with the catch. That is exactly how we built that 2011 team. I'm excited to see how that goes. Now, the running back situation still was a little bit, are we going to run the ball or not kind of questioning, and it looked a little bit like we're heading more that way. So I'm excited to see more out of the run game when we get out to Denver this week.
I certainly hope so because we have the embarrassment of riches at running back right now. We want to see a lot more Ty Montgomery as well as the other new guys as well. But before we dig into some of the injuries and things going on, the latest news, we've got a quick voicemail from Caleb in Wisconsin. Take it away, Caleb.
Yes, this is Caleb Fisher from O'Connell Falls, Wisconsin. I wanted to have your intake on Jason Hill, the backup quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, and how well he did. Also, I was also noticing on how great the defense was for the Packers on the first drive of defense when they lost the ball. And go Pack go till we're getting cold.
Thanks so much, Caleb. That's amazing. I can't believe he's on the Taysom Hill train too. I mean, yeah, it was an awesome touchdown, but I'm going to be the devil's advocate. We got to just take one game at a time. Aaron is the quarterback. Yes, we had that issue where he went down, and then we went through like 4 more quarterbacks for the next 4 games. But I think he's going to be great. I think maybe it will be enough to maybe bump, unfortunately, Joe off of the slate when it all comes down to it.
Yeah.
But the question is whether we keep 3 or not again.
We have to keep at least 2 backups. I don't want any nightmare scenarios where we're just picking people up left and right to throw in there. I have a good feeling about this season, and Caleb made another great point about the first-string defense. They did really well, and even when they weren't necessarily everywhere they needed to be, they seem to have had speed and fire.
Yeah, and I think the tackling was a little bit better in this game, too.
Yes.
The first game, it seemed like we were playing 2-hand touch, but you should do that in preseason because it's preseason. We don't want people to get hurt.
That's true. That's true.
But it was much more appreciated to see how everything was coming together in the end when the defense was out there. So I'm thinking it's a pretty well put-together team, and we're going to see a lot of fun stuff come Saturday night in Denver.
Yeah, except for I'm a little nervous about the news that came out of practice. I guess it was just a day or two ago. Brian Balaga has some sort of ankle thing going on.
An uncertain status is never fun to see, especially this close to the start of the regular season, especially when it's on that offensive line that we were talking about, with the second string not maybe quite being up to par. So we'll have to see how that plays out.
And we haven't had quite as much time to dig into all the details because we are here in beautiful downtown Anaheim, California at the Podcast Movement Conference, meeting up with a lot of great friends and watching Troy get awards. So we're going to, as the regular season gets closer, we'll be able to dig into more details. But as far as we know, Malachi Dupree is still week to week, so wishing him a quick return for sure.
Yeah, and Darren Barkley still uncertain there with his injury. And Montravius Adams still sidelined with the week-to-week for the foot injury. Geronimo Allison slated to return week 2.
Can't wait.
Because of the suspension. But he's still playing in the preseason. And then, of course, Beagle. We're still waiting to see Beagle get out there for camp. So hopefully he's ready to go and maybe could play 1 game before the regular season. And if not, we'll be able to go from there and see what happens.
Yeah, because those first 4 games of the regular season, we need all hands on deck. It's going to be amazing. Now, do you have some ideas on how we can beat the Denver Broncos because we are on the road again this week, even though it is preseason?
I certainly do have those. Now, the big thing that we're going to have out here, and because we have an abbreviated show today, we're only going to go with 3 keys of the game, and the number 1 is going to see how the number 1 quarterback in the National Football League, yes, that's Aaron Rodgers, people. Aaron Rodgers is going to go up against the no-fly zone in the Denver Broncos. The no-fly zone is made up of all these amazing players like Aqib Talib and Chris Harris Jr. They were ranked as cornerbacks number 1 and 2 by Pro Football Focus last year. Add in TJ Ward. Now, he hasn't played in the preseason and just returned to practice, so he may not be in the game. But if he's in there, you still got Darian Stewart along with Bradley Robbie back there. The backfield is going to be stacked with talent for the Broncos. I think this will be a great test for our number 1 offense to see if we can actually hold up with everything that's going to be happening. And Jamal Charles is now in Denver, so that'll be interesting to see.
When did that happen?
He just arrived, literally just arrived in Denver.
Because he wants to play against the Packers.
He absolutely does. And I wonder if that'll be this week that we'll see him. I'm sure he'll be listed probably 3rd on the depth chart for the game this week just because of his arrival, learn the playbook, things of that nature. So I don't know if we'll see him, but it'll be a great test for our defensive line if he is in there, such a stalwart player that there is. And then, of course, we have Cody Latimer. Yes, the former second-round pick was supposed to impress last week to take the number 3 receiver job, but he was held out due to an injured and sore patella tendon. This week, he's got to go and must play, so I think it'll be interesting to see how that works out. And if he's the number 3 receiver, that means he's in the slot, which means we should see a lot of Quentin Rollins in the game against the Broncos on Saturday.
Yeah, we enjoy a good test. And the fact that we're going up against a pretty strong team of professionals that most of us have heard of, it's going to be tough. Luckily, this is the last road preseason game, and we get that very last preseason game at home before opening up, against those Seattle Seahawks. So,
which breaking news.
What?
I am going to the home opener against the Seahawks.
Now, how'd this happen? We haven't. This is the first I've heard of this. A lot of the guys from the UK and Irish Packers podcast, they're bringing over like 20 people to go to that game.
Oh my God, that is totally awesome. I have to totally get with those guys.
You do.
That would be fantastic. No, my other half of my family actually has the green package tickets. I have the gold package tickets. And so I got the call this year and said, hey, do you want to go to a game? And I was like, I'd love to go to Seattle if it's available. And they're like, done. And I was like, yes. Home opener, Seattle, and no snow and no cold.
and start that season off 1-0. You might actually have to have sunscreen at a Packers game.
I think I will. So I get basically the first two home games. I'll get Seattle and Cincinnati this year. So if you're going to the game and you want to find us, just shoot us a note. That's feedback@PackersFanPodcast.com, or you can give us a call again, 920-3-PACK-GO.
That's going to be amazing. And because almost all of the games you go to tend to be nighttime games.
They do.
Monday night, Sunday night, Thursday night. So this will be a whole new thing. I'm looking forward to the Facebook Live videos from you, from the game, as well as from any of the listeners that want to post those. We'll definitely share those out. Did that wrap up the keys, or is there one more key on how we're going to beat the Broncos?
We're just going to cheer really loudly in Denver because this is the best team traveling away game attendance group in the Green Bay Packers fandom.
Nice.
So number 4 is going to be lots of Go Pack Go. And if you throw 3 Pack Go in there as well, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, in fact, when you're at the Seattle game, since our listener feedback number is 920-3-PACK-GO, if you can get a little section and record them going, 3-PACK-GO, 3-PACK-GO. We'll put that in the podcast every single week.
That we will.
Nan, like Troy said, abbreviated show this week. We appreciate you tuning in and listening to the Packers Fan Podcast. We do have a few tidbits from the official Green Bay Packers dope sheet. Be sure to read the whole thing because even though it's preseason, they put a ton of work and it's a great document. We will link to it at PackersFanPodcast.com/134. We traveled to Denver for the last road preseason game to play those Broncos Saturday, August 26th, 7 p.m. Mountain Time at Sports Authority Field. And basically the two notable connections that jumped out at me this time, Broncos offensive coordinator Mike McCoy spent the 1995 season on the Packers practice squad. Back in 95, we had a lot of players you've heard of back in the day.
We sure did.
And Green Bay tackle David Bakhtiari and kicker Mason Crosby both played at Colorado. So hopefully they're still used to that.
Is it like Colorado? Oh, no, that's Oklahoma.
Troy loves to sing on a podcast. So maybe they're still used to the, high altitudes, the thin air and all that good stuff. So again, read the full Packers dope sheet from the Green Bay Packers. We'll link to it, make it easy to find, PackersFanPodcast.com/134.
And again, it'll be broadcast all across the Packers statewide television network, and you can catch it on Packers Radio Network as well, with the flagship WTMJ there in Milwaukee, AM 620. And, of course, make sure you pick up the NFL Game Pass. It is a fantastic way for you to watch the preseason games live or watch the shortened, condensed version, 60 minutes in and out. Pretty easy. It's awesome. So make sure you get the Game Pass, and then, of course, then throughout the regular season, you'll be able to pick up all of the games after they've aired to see any angles or options that you missed or want to dig in deeper so that you can get your awesome feedback in here to the Packers Fan Podcast.
And we'll have full details next week on the final preseason game against the Rams. But just from what I've kind of seen early reports, for whatever reason, this Game 4, which almost none of the starters play, is like the big one that I think is going to be shown live around the United States.
Oh, really? It'll be on NFL Network potentially?
I'm not sure which channel. Maybe it's because I unfortunately live in Rams territory. Maybe it's just going to be, they're excited to show it on KCAL 9 or CBS 2 in LA. So we'll see.
And then I also have to come back out here to California to watch that game with you.
And be sure to be ready next season when we get a regular season Packers at Rams game.
Well, as we wrap it up here, I suppose we should pick our wild and crazy predictions of the game. I lost track. I think you were probably closer last week from what I recollect. Is that true?
Yeah, the final score was Redskins 17, Packers 21, so it was very, very close. And I had a feeling it would be. I had Packers 22, Redskins 19, so very, very close. You went with Packers 30, Redskins 20.
Well, I was close on the Redskins side. If we would have had one more Taysom Hill running touchdown, it would have been better.
It would have been spot on, yeah.
Well, then I yield the floor to you, Sir Wayne.
Preseason games are tough, but knowing that traditionally Game 3 is the one where we get the starters for the longest, I'm going to go with Packers 30, like you did last week, and I think we're going to get the 30. And then Broncos 24. So we're going to win by almost a touchdown. Maybe there will be a missed extra point or something like that. How about you?
I'm going to go with, because of the no-fly zone, I think we're going to have a running, slow, methodical game this week. So
Really?
I'm going to go with Packers 17, Broncos 15.
Oh, my goodness.
Straight field goals the whole way for the Broncos because the defense is going to rock.
The defense is going to rock. It's going to be fantastic. So it's going to be great to see because, the Broncos are one of those other traditional teams with a lot of fans. We may not hear as much Go Pack Go, but I have my ear attuned to that kind of thing, Troy.
There you go. We want to thank, of course, the Texas Only Packers fan Facebook group, sponsoring at the Brett Favre level, and much like Brett Favre, they never give up and cheer as hard as they can, especially in October when we go down to Dallas. And, of course, Alex J. at the Curly Lambeau appreciation level. Well done and much appreciated. You, too, can help make the Packers podcast even better by going to PackersFanPodcast.com/support and support us there on Patreon. Pick whichever level serves your needs. We'd love to be able to do live call-in, post-game shows, things of that nature, but we'll need your support to make that happen. Again, PackersFanPodcast.com/support.
Yeah, because being here at the Podcast Movement Conference, we're coming up with more ideas from other sports podcasters and just other podcasters in general, how to make the show even better. So we look for that as the season gets closer, and we want to make it better for you so that you can enjoy it even more. Again, we want to thank TalkShoe for sponsoring this live recording of our Packers Fan Podcast. TalkShoe, again, it's a unique website for people to participate in live interactive podcasts called Community Calls. You can check out the deals. You can have your own podcast. Go to TalkShoe.com.
And thanks again to Shure for providing the microphones for our live podcast recording here at Podcast Movement in Anaheim, California. That's Shure.com, SHURE.com. I don't think we've ever sounded better, Wayne.
This is good stuff. A couple of the radio stations I worked at back in the day had these exact microphones. But we want to thank you again for listening to this episode of the Packers Fan Podcast. Remember to listen to us on the go with our free Packers Fan Podcast apps for iOS and Android. Follow us all season long on Twitter at PackersFanPod, as well as my personal account, just because I'm at Wayne Henderson.
And me, I'm at Troy Heinrichs. Be sure to like us on Facebook. We mentioned it earlier, PackersFanPodcast.com/Facebook to join the community. We want to get your pictures this season.
Yes.
So if you are at a game, make sure you send them to us at feedback@PackersFanPodcast.com. Again, PackersFanPodcast.com. Just feedback, post them yourselves, or pick us on Twitter. Make sure you hit us up there again at PackersFanPod. Make sure you tag us in your photos, and we'll make sure to share them and get a fan wall going. That'd be great.
Please do. Remember, Go Pack Go. Keep the conversations going online. We're going to be back with another full Packers Fan Podcast episode leading up to that final game against the Rams. But until then, thanks again for listening, and Go Pack Go, Troy.
Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts so that you don't miss any of the 2017 campaign. It's kicking off in just 2.5 weeks. I can't believe September 10th is right around the corner. It's going to be fantastic. So let's go ahead and make sure that we show how Packers fans travel when we go to Denver this week. Let's go at 1, 2, 3. Everybody at Podcast Movement, let me hear you with a Go Pack Go!